I love giving people information. And, that may even be referring them to, a financial person to remain in their home or a senior placement advisor, or a hospice agency like we talked about, or home health. There's lots of things that I connect people to.
Hello, this is Matt Helton with OneTrust Home Loans, your reverse mortgage expert, and you found the Serving Seniors podcast, where we highlight those businesses and individuals that help seniors thrive in retirement. And today we have another one of those awesome people and businesses. We have Miss Francine Ruth, and she's the owner here in Middle Tennessee of Home Matters Caregiving. She's going to share with you why she serves seniors, how she serves seniors, and why she loves what she does. Francine, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you for being here. How's everything in your world?
Good. Great. Busy. And I wanted to say that I'm very grateful for the opportunity to join and talk about, how we can help seniors stay in their home longer and safer.
That's awesome. Well, that's what we're all about. We talk about thriving in retirement. Well, it's hard to thrive if you're not safe, right? So you kind of one of those necessities that we need. So we appreciate you doing that. And what we kind of like to do, if it's okay, because people like to work with people that they trust, and it's hard to trust someone if you don't know them, right? So we'd like to get to know maybe some background on Francine, where you're from, what brought you to Tennessee, and what you've done in the past, and maybe your journey here to serving seniors.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a safe question to ask because we have a lot of transplants in Tennessee. So I am not originally from Tennessee, but I've been in Tennessee for about 7 years now.
Nice.
And, I am originally from Northeastern Ohio, so just south of Cleveland. Okay. And I worked, the reason why I came to Tennessee was I worked for Progressive Insurance in many different roles in my 33-year tenure, including leadership and process. I decided that I didn't want to retire from Progressive and I wanted to give back to the senior community. And my mom had a really good experience with home care towards the end of her life. And when you're realizing what you want to do in your next phase of your career, you take a lot of tests and you do a lot of soul searching. Sure. And in purchasing the company, I realized that home care was at the top of what I was going to be good at. So I decided to take the plunge, and I purchased Home Matters Caregiving. We're the only agency in Middle Tennessee, in Tennessee, actually. Right. They were founded in 2007, and they have a lot of differentiators that really made me decide to go with them and purchase this agency versus other agencies. And I think that the three are nurse-guided care, the technology, as we know, is the future of home care. It's the future of life. And then purpose-driven care. Nice. So those are three things that really separate Home Matters Caregiving from other, as we like to say, non-medical home care agencies.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. I guess what you sound like you did some soul searching and what you'd be good at, et cetera, but also too on the mental side, like why in-home care, why seniors, I guess, why did that fit your need and why were you passionate about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that, my mom had a really good experience. I've realized that, I've seen some nursing homes and assisted living facilities, and I know that people really want to stay in home. And I think sometimes keeping them in their homes and helping them stay safely in their homes is better for the client. Mm. And I think, as you're growing up and as you're becoming an adult, you realize that you're either a kid person or you're a senior person. And I've always been one to love seniors. I think they're a misunderstood generation, and you can learn so much from them. And I know that, sometimes they could be forgotten. And I wanted to be that person to help them stay in their home, help listen to them, help be a connector for them for their needs. I just spoke with somebody on the phone from a lead, and it was the sister of a 91-year-old woman who she wasn't sure what she needed. So we talked about things. Ultimately, I didn't get the client because she couldn't afford us, but I was able to pair her up with hospice, because really all she wanted somebody to come in and bathe her mom once a week. So I said, well, your mom's 91. She has congestive heart failure. She's probably going to be a good candidate for hospice. So here's a hospice contact. So I like being that connector and helping people, even if that means I don't get them as a client.
Right. That's all. Well, that's a great. Hospice has a very negative connotation, right? In the regular world, but being in the meetings that you and I go together, and being in the senior world, we know that hospice just gives people comfort, gives people care. We've heard of people being with hospice for years,
right?
And sometimes it's only days, right? But still, they're not. It's not a death sentence. It's comfort and peace and take care of you. So it's awesome to do that, because you didn't have to do that, right? You could have had somebody who can help you. So it's a great testament to your servant style and how you want to help people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what makes me feel good, and when people say, thank you so much for your help, you've given me such good information. I mean, I also shared the book where she can maybe take her mom or her sister out to some activities in the area. So I love giving people information, and, that may even be referring them to, a financial person to remain in their home, or a senior placement advisor, or a hospice agency like we talked about, or home health. There's lots of things that I connect people to.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's great. Well, maybe if you want to dive into a little bit more, you mentioned, 3 things that may be different about what you do than what some other people do. So maybe if you could share a little background on those things, and then also to how you've seen those in motion, how those things have been able to help seniors have better retirements and age in place.
Absolutely. So we have a registered nurse on staff. She's full time. She's part of our team. Shelley, she plays a huge part in my agency's success, because even though we're non-clinical or non-medical care, our clients need us because of some health condition. It could be because they have Alzheimer's, or it could be because they have dementia, could be because they've fallen in the past and broken a hip. But regardless, Shelley is there to help make it more of a clinical experience for the client. She trains our caregivers. She conducts 30-day supervisory visits. Every 30 days, she conducts supervisory visits. She reviews the care plan to make sure that the care plan hasn't changed. She audits the caregiver to make sure that they're doing everything the client needs to be doing, makes recommendations based on their diet or their exercise plan. She's amazing. And kind of in tandem with that, she works with our technology. So our technology was really one of the big reasons why I purchased Home Matters, because technology is the future of home care. And, we're never going to replace a care provider, but there are some people that cannot afford 24/7 care that may need 24/7 care. And our technology is called Sensi, and it's Sensi AI. It is artificial intelligence, and it's really cool. It's 3 pods that we plug into the client's home. It's hooked up to a router that is self-contained. We provide all of this. One of the pods goes into the living room, one into the bedroom, one into the bathroom, and it senses health-related sounds. They don't have to plug it in. They don't have to turn it on. They don't have to turn it off. They don't have to wear it. It's amazing the information it captures. It is HIPAA compliant, all audio based, so it's not a video, at all. And our nurse, Shelley, takes a look at that data every single morning to see if there's anything that needs to be addressed. And I'll also say that we get pinged via email, text, and phone call if there's an urgent matter. So a fall would be considered an urgent matter, a cry for help. We had somebody yesterday say basically that they wanted to commit suicide. That's something that it captured, and that's something that we went to our process. We have a process to follow, and Shelley was able to follow that process, call the client's daughter and talk to the client's daughter about that comment. So one thing that I think this particular it's not a falling. I know a lot of people say, well, my mom has one of those. She wears one of those things on her neck. Well, it's not just, it just doesn't just sense falls.
Yeah.
It helps the client stay in their home longer because it detects declining conditions. So if somebody is going to the bathroom a lot and maybe, urinating and it's painful, that's why we have a pot in the bathroom. We'll sense that. The other day, we were able to pick up that a client who just came back from vacation, so she was on an airplane, started coughing a lot. So she went to the doctor and was able to get on a prescription for antibiotics so that it didn't escalate into something else. We have a client right now who has a neurological condition, and it causes her to fall probably 6 or 7 times a day. And she can't afford 24/7 care right now. So what happens is her and Shelly created a plan where if she falls and she's okay, she'll say, I'm okay, I'm okay. So we'll hear that in the recording so that we don't go down this path and we don't, call the daughter and call her, is everything okay? So we have this path because a lot of her falls aren't, she's learned how to fall because she falls so much. Wow. So we'll know the difference between a really severe fall and a fall that might not be as severe. So she'll say, I'm okay. I just fell over my chair, or I'm not hurt. So it's just amazing technology. It fills in those gaps when a caregiver can't be there. And even when a caregiver is there, because a caregiver is busy taking care of a client, not necessarily listening for how often they cough, not really doing a checkbox with how often they fall. So it's just amazing technology. It helps reduce readmission rates. It helps give a more holistic picture of the client's well-being.
Wow, that's awesome. So, and then just so I understand, so you've got you pay so much an hour for people to be there,
right?
In care, and then you pay something different if you want to have this service. Is that correct?
So that's a good question, Matt. So actually, our technology comes standard of care. So as long as you're getting, 8 hours a week care, which most people are, you're getting Sensi at no additional cost. So we consider it standard of care. Yes. Okay. Now, if somebody can't afford care and they only want Sensi, we can do that as well.
Okay. Wow, that's great. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. I haven't heard of that before. So yeah. That got your attention as one of the reasons why you wanted this organization.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, coming from a company like Progressive, and we're always changing, and we're always, we were very progressive. We were always, looking for the better way to do things. That's what really drew me in, and our agency too is always looking for other ways. So Sensi right now is our technology, but we're also looking at technology that may be better for, maybe specifically for Alzheimer's clients, or maybe specifically for for somebody who has, I don't know, maybe somebody specifically on hospice. So there's all kinds of things that we're looking for. So we're always looking at better ways of doing things.
That's awesome. Well, Fran, I guess if somebody calls in, whether they work with you or not, what are some of the resources you may recommend if someone is, elderly, or maybe you're talking to their kids? Are there some resources that you kind of send people's way?
Yes.
Take it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a list in my assessment package that talks about, it gives them some ideas for durable medical equipment. So, who to call for durable medical equipment. And these are all companies that I've dealt with and that I know are, will add value. We'll talk about financial. We'll list 2 or 3 people that I've worked with from the senior placement world, hospice, home health. I have even done a lot of referrals to some practices in Middle Tennessee that come to the house, because a lot of these folks don't want to go to the doctor anymore. Sure. They feel like they're going to fall. So there's 3 practices in Middle Tennessee that I refer to quite often. And I think it really helps the client feel more confident and more secure in staying in their home.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, Francine, it sounds like you've got a good system, got a great company behind you, and then you have a great team. Maybe share a little bit about yourself as far as what you would say would be your superpowers. What's allowing you to do this? What's causing your business to do well? What are your qualities?
Well, you know,
I'd call them superpowers.
superpower. I mean, so I think the superpowers are, first of all, I believe in customer experience is so important to me. I'd really encourage anybody who's considering hiring me or calling or reaching out to me to look at our Google reviews. Those are non-solicited. Those are people that, do it on their own. I just got a great review yesterday that literally I couldn't pay for. So I really care. My team really cares. My scheduler is amazing. She was a caregiver for 25 years, so she knows how to deal with the caregivers. Our caregivers are just as important as our clients. They are. And if we don't treat our caregivers well, then they're not going to be good to our clients. Yeah. My business development manager has a ton of experience in healthcare, and she's learning to be a great home care business development manager. Our nurse, Shelley, too, she, her the way she embraces these people, she treats them like they're her patients, and she's very involved in their families and their situations. And then I think lastly, what really helps us, and it's kind of a combination of all of our responsibilities, is pairing up the right caregiver with the right client. Mm. That is so important. I mean, it's a matchmaking service is what it is. And that's why I go to all the assessments so that I can know what the client is. And as I'm sitting there talking to the client, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what caregiver am I going to pair this person up with? Because I also attend all of the orientations. That Shelley does the orientations, but I'm there to meet these caregivers face to face so that I have an idea of, okay, this is going to be great for Mildred. This person's going to be great for Joe. So yeah. I think that's a big part of it. And listening to the people, listening to the clients. We are in their home. We want them to feel secure, and we want them to feel comfortable with the person that is helping them.
Wow, that's all. And I love that. I asked you about yourself, and you told about everybody else, which kind of shows one of your superpowers, but be the team building your group up and putting together this awesome team. And they're probably working with you, right? Because you're adding value to them. Yes. So it's about the team. So that was a good example of.
I'm very lucky. I really, every time I wake up, I'm like, man, I can't believe they're still here. It's just, I feel that we just work really, really well together. We're a really great team.
That is awesome. Oh, what a great answer. That's great. Well, maybe Francine, could you share, I know every situation is different, but I guess if somebody, and I saw a statistic that 70% of all people will eventually need some sort of in-home care or some care, but only 7% of all people ever got around to buying long-term care insurance. And then even when you do have the insurance, right, someone like you has to argue a lot of the times for it to even pay services. So maybe could you walk through, if someone doesn't have tons of money floating around, some of the ways you talk about that they could possibly afford in-home care and what you guys do, maybe some alternative options to pay for it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what I've been doing is, we'll go back to long-term care insurance. I think what's happening with long-term care insurance is people don't necessarily want to use it for home care. They want to use it for when their mom or dad or themselves get to a point where they need to go into assisted living or a nursing facility. Okay. And sometimes they tend to think, well, I'll help them, I'll be able to help them because, I'm okay. I just had somebody do that just 2 days ago. We're going to now help mom because I know mom's going to be declining rapidly and she's going to need more care than we can put, into place. So I think in that situation, I do understand it. I keep up with them. I keep in touch with them every month or so just to see how things are going. They might need some, impromptu care if the daughter has a doctor's appointment and maybe can't be with mom that day, or the husband isn't feeling well. But I think a lot of times when people say they can't afford care, it's, I reference out to, people who can help, maybe refinance their home, maybe, Somebody like you, somebody who can look at maybe their long-term care policy and realize that it's more benefits than they thought it was, or there's different limits than they thought it was. I had a gentleman who was a State Farm agent for 35 years, and he's got a little bit of cognitive decline, and I referred him to somebody to take a look at the long-term care policy.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, he's like, well, I know I can read a policy. I said, I know you can. I said, I get it. But, you sold, home insurance and you sold car insurance. I said, this is a little different. It's a little tricky. So I was able to refer to somebody, and he was able to better understand what the policy pays for. Kind of ease his concerns off of, that.
That's a great service. Yeah. I like to use the phrase when we come in is like, well, have you ever thought about using your house to stay in your house?
Yep.
Like, what do you mean? How would we do that? Well, I wouldn't stay here, right? It's like a lot of times if you want to remodel the kitchen, you don't pull money out of your bank account. A lot of times you use the equity, right? So it's the same idea as your goal is to age in place to stay in your house. Have you ever thought about all the equity you have? Like, oh, no, we don't want to. We don't want to get into that because we just don't know how it's all going to turn out, those type of things. And I think that's where you mentioned about resources, and that's just where education comes in, right? A lot of folks are concerned about, well, what if, the payment goes up, or what about this, or what about that? And they don't understand in today's world, any type of loan you do, you still own your house. You can still sell your house. If something happens to you, you can still pass the home on to the kids, so a lot of the stuff that they're worried about either never existed, or if it did, it was like a one-off. Yeah. But there's a lot of consumer protection. There's, when the government gets involved, sometimes there's positives and negatives, but one thing that they've done on lending and in-home care and healthcare, right, is a lot of protection. So I like to tell people that, when we talk to someone, we'll show them a line of credit, right? So they'll keep their mortgage in place, pull some money out, and then, the challenge is that they'd have a monthly payment. The positive is that they only use a little bit of their equity, but if they have a really low mortgage rate, that mortgage rate stays in place. So sometimes it may make sense for them just to keep their loan in place and get a line of credit, which would basically be a second mortgage. Sometimes it would make sense for them to, they don't owe anything. They want $100,000. They'll just do a 30-year fixed mortgage. Even though they're 90 years old, they could, if they qualify, do a regular mortgage. But then with the rates being so high, they may have a hefty monthly payment. And who's to say that, on Social Security, if they even qualify for that, and a lot of times they don't. And then we look at the FHAs. It's the new and improved consumer protected version of a reverse mortgage called the HECM, which is Home Equity Conversion Mortgage. So it's basically like a line of credit reverse mortgage combo, where they still own their house. They could still sell their house if they ever wanted to, and they can still give the home to the kids. It's just that they can borrow some of all that equity they built up. They can borrow it, but not have a big monthly payment. So that's where it could help someone like you is, let's say that they only owe 40, 50, even $100,000 in their house, but they're sending maybe their payment $700 or $800 a month. Mm-hmm. Well, just by us paying that mortgage off, if they went with the FHA version, their monthly payment would go from $800 down to zero. So they're automatically, that'd be $800 a month that they could spend on care and not change their budget. That makes sense. Yeah. And then sometimes if they have enough equity, we can give them a line of credit where they could actually send money out of the equity in the house. Right. They'd have a line of credit. But the reason why a lot of times they can't do it or won't do it on a regular mortgage is they don't make enough money to qualify, or maybe they've had credit issues. And these programs are actually more flexible on qualification and way more flexible on credit score. So so we kind of go through a lot of scenarios. I always tell people, I usually explain it this way. Nobody wants a reverse mortgage, but everybody wants access to their equity with no monthly payment, with easier to qualify. They want all this stuff, right? And I always explain to them, well, that is what a reverse mortgage is. Right. Access to your equity with no monthly payment, easier qualifications, easier on credit scores, and those type of things. So we kind of walk through the pros and cons of different options. So that's where, as you meet more people, we'd be able to kind of talk through that with them. A lot of times we talk with the kids, right? And help explain it to the parents. But the main thing is is that when someone needs care, as you know, a lot of times they think about care, then they fall, then they get hurt, and then
That's
they
it. Yep.
right. So what we want to do is to be a resource with, hey, I'm thinking about care. If you're thinking about it, you probably need to figure out how to get it because something's telling you that you probably need
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So Matt, what do you do when do you meet them at their home? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we do it however they need to do it because since we're local here, we can go meet with them. A lot of times if they're looking into specifically the FHA reverse mortgage, most of the companies that do that are out of town. So you're calling New York or Chicago, you're asking someone that's 75 years old to text or send their paperwork out of town. And then by then, it just kind of gets off the rails.
Yeah.
So yes, ma'am, what we do a lot is we'll get the basic data over the phone. And then that way, when we come over or do a Zoom with the kids, we've already got the information available. But we only need to run some preliminary numbers. We only need to know approximate value of home, their ages, and then if they owe anything, approximately how much they owe. If we've got those, we can run some preliminary numbers of how much money they could get. And then we would chat with you on, well, if they could get this much money, how long would that, how many hours / how much time would this buy them? And we could help formulate a good plan based off what's available.
Yeah. Do you, do you give out information? Cause I do include some information from other vendors in my assessment package.
So we have some generic flyers that kind of give the background because the main challenge that we run into is people, if they hear anything reverse mortgage related, they think losing house, losing equity, all gloom and doom. But when they research it, all that stuff is like 30 years ago, a long time ago stuff. That in Tennessee, the only option available is the FHA consumer protected version. So it's all safe, lots of regulation. It's just that most people, unfortunately, haven't been able to. Most people haven't been educated that there were changes and protections in place. Right. Let's go off of the old information.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. Well, glad to connect with you about this. Glad to be able to help on the future. I guess, Ms. France, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that, if you're looking for, if anybody's looking for wonderful care, wonderful caregivers, a wonderful group of people, we're all women in my organization. And I think, we're all very caring and we're passionate about home care and the senior community. Reach out and I'd be glad to do a complimentary assessment and a complimentary home safety inspection. That's
awesome. That is awesome. Well, maybe if you could share how will they get in touch with you and then what areas do you serve specifically?
Yeah, we serve all of Davidson County, all of Williamson County, most of Sumner County, and a good part of Wilson County. Mm-hmm. And we'll go out to outlying areas. As long as we have a caregiver, we can help you out. And then they can get in touch with me at 615-234-6493. Or my email address is francine.ruth@homematters.com.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you for who you are and what you're doing. And thank you for bringing this information, this technology. And most importantly, thank you for serving the seniors here in Middle Tennessee.
No problem, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for watching the Serving Senior podcast, where I highlight these awesome business owners like Francine that help seniors thrive in retirement. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day. Thanks, Francine.
Bye.
Hey, this is Matt Helton with OneTrust Home Loans, home of retirement mortgage solutions. And we really do appreciate you checking out the Serving Seniors podcast today. Now, please go to the description down in the body of the podcast where you can subscribe to get future shows. Please click that notification button so you get notified when other shows drop. And also, if you can go to servingseniourspodcast.com, and we'd love to hear a comment about our show. We have a heart to serve seniors, and we have a heart to make sure seniors don't just survive retirement, don't just get by in retirement. we want to show seniors how to thrive in retirement. So if you know of anyone that's 55 and older that could use some extra cash flow, maybe the retirement's not going the way that they like, our retirement mortgage solutions are designed for folks, and depending on the state, they're either 55 or 62 and older, to make sure that they have that kind of retirement that they want. As long as they own a home and they're in a good equity position, there could be some solutions that they may not have thought about, or maybe they've thought of and they just didn't know how they work. That's what we do. So anyone in that age group that could use some mortgage advice, my team and I would love to be able to help them. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing you on the next show. Have a great day.